Welcome back to another episode of Another Race Weekend. I'm your host, Dames Nellas, alongside team manager, national champ, Darryl Timmers.
Yes, I'm here.
We are here to discuss. We're here to discuss an epic British GP, not just the GP, but the entire weekend.
Yes.
It was a change of format. Let's start right there because everybody knows where we're gonna go. But let's start right there. The change in format, less practices, qualifying on the Friday.
Yeah, I honestly, I liked it. It was really cool. It was something new. I think, yes, it's a great idea to throw a little bit of a mix into the F1 season. To do it every single weekend, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I am so pro saying, yes, let's do this a couple times a year, like 3 or 4 times a year. Let's have those sprint races and have some fun. Like, it was great seeing the cars go full speed the entire race, and there was no holding back.
Yeah,
no
pit stops,
there's nothing.
Manage this, manage that.
Exactly.
They were blistering, and it was like, oh, it is what it is.
And then they said, oh, no one's going to race each other. They're just going to be in the line. And it was a battle royale. It was really cool seeing that.
Yeah, let's talk about the sprint race for a second, because there were a few things that I noticed in the sprint race. It looked like initially the guys who put the soft tires on, Fernando Alonso, for instance, he was just off to the race.
He was going for it. And that's the part of the soft and the medium compound. Everyone on the Reds were flying at the beginning. They were passing people, doing everything they could to get, as many positions as possible. But at that midway point, all of a sudden it was like, oh, bye-bye red tires and hello medium tires,
Why would you make that move? I thought 17 laps, we're going to see everybody on the softs.
Yeah.
Right? Is it just characteristics of certain cars?
Yes, it is, but it's also where you're starting in the grid, see if you can get through the pack a little bit more so that the guys in the yellows, you can get past them a lot quicker and then maybe capitalize on that. And then by the time their tires come in, you're far enough ahead that they won't catch you. The guys that are at the back too, like I said, they're trying to make up as many positions as possible. So if at the beginning of the race is when the pack's the closest, so they have the fresher tires, so they're going to want to go after everyone and get in there.
Ultimately, Max got the jump on Lewis in the sprint race to take that P1 away going into the Grand Prix. I want to talk about that for a second because we've spoken about this before, and it would appear that the Red Bull just always gets off the line much faster than the Mercedes.
The Mercedes gets off the line well, but the Red Bull, when he hits the start and when he nails it perfectly, yes, the Red Bull takes off. Because I feel like that was a little bit of an illusion of Max nailing the start and Hamilton doing not a good start.
Is there anything to the front end being on fire?
That was a fire start.
Max is on fire. We've seen all of it over the past couple days.
For sure. So I don't think so. I think that was another thing where he was loading the tires up a little bit more, and maybe didn't. The car was sitting at the grid a lot longer than everyone was taking time to actually get into their grid positions, and he was sitting there for over a minute. And it's going to do that to the rims by the end of it, right? Or the tires by the end of it when they're heating up and doing whatever they have to do to get into it, right?
Max Lewis, who was in the wrong?
Racing.
Racing was in the wrong.
Racing. That's it. The racing mistake. Honestly, I don't know how everyone was getting so mad at Hamilton. If it was reverse situations, Max drives Lewis hard every single time he's around him. No matter what. He put him to the white line. He's on the dirty stuff. He swung out. Hamilton was beside him going into the corner. And then as he turned in, he even said, I saw Max coming down and I know how Max is. So he did try to back out a bit. It was just too late. Max drives hard. No matter what, if it's 10 out of 10 times, he's going to drive you hard. And I'm going to tell you, one of those times he's going to make contact with people because sooner or later, Hamilton's just not going to back down anymore. He backs out constantly in turn one, backs out constantly. If he keeps doing that, Max is just going to keep doing it to him. Yep. So in the end, this is racing. You race each other hard. You race each other to the point where sometimes you're going to end up having contact. It's not Lewis. It's not anything against Lewis for, he took him out on purpose. No, it was racing. These guys are going for the world championship in Formula One. They are going to make contact every once in a while.
We've been saying this for months now.
Yeah.
At some point,
this was going to happen.
And if you go back a few episodes, I think we even said both of them will end up out of the race.
Yeah.
Now, fortune favored Lewis this weekend.
Exactly.
However, there have been instances this season and going back where you can see Lewis has been the more mature of the two, lived to fight another day. But being down 30-something points in the
No more.
championship
Sorry,
fight
buddy.
at your home race and having the drive.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. You said it. I saw it. I think Toto's the only other person who said it's like they were side by side going into the corner.
They were.
Right?
They were. Yes, by the time they made contact, his wheel was at his rear wheel. But if you look at it, Hamilton was backing out at that point, and then they made contact. Okay? Everyone's like, oh, he missed his apex, His tires are dirty when you're on the white line on the inside going into a high-speed corner.
Well, answer this as a driver coach as well.
Yeah.
Driver. How many lines are there through a corner? There's an infinite amount.
Yeah, there's a lot of lines.
You know what I mean? Like, so who are you to say where Hamilton was going to put the apex on that? That was a long sweeping corner. Could have taken it right in the middle, late.
Hey, it happens. If you look at the trajectory of Hamilton's car from the above, he was going towards the apex. They just made contact before they got there. It is what it is. Like,
the funny part is they made contact 2 times before that.
Exactly. And then I don't know. It's, I feel so bad for Hamilton getting all of these comments and racial slurs all over the internet when it's racing. I swear Max has driven him off the track a couple of times this year, and it's like, oh, it's racing. Just so happened that this was contact on a high-speed corner, and it was a bad accident.
Well, I
happens.
think the result
Yes.
is really what has people kind of feeling away, because if we go to the last race, the Austrian Grand Prix,
Yeah.
Christian Horner
Yeah.
was saying it was just racing when Lando and his driver got driven off the track.
Exactly.
The difference is his driver was able to complete the race. But I think some of the stuff that Horner is saying and Marco, they're getting too far into the reality TV drama
Yes,
of it.
I
I was wondering if Netflix was following them around or something, because some of that to me, some of the stuff that they're saying, calling for suspensions and all that, it's like anybody who's sitting behind the wheel of anything competitively knows what that was.
Yeah. Sooner or later, he's a world champion. He's going to be like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm just going to hold my ground, and whatever happens, happens. And that's what happened this weekend. He held his ground. They race each other hard. If it was reverse situations, I would expect Max to do the same thing. It's going to be racing.
Max Verstappen. We've seen growth, but he's still not there. And I don't know, with things the way they are now, meaning the championship race, if he can pull it off this year, because things have gotten close again. We got a championship fight again, right? The maturation needs to be at a point where he sees that, and quickly in a split second he realizes, I have the stronger car. Go ahead. Let me just jump back in the draft.
Exactly.
And try to get you. But he's just not coming around. Like,
No.
What is it about? Like, is he still red misted?
So I think he still has a lot to mature in Formula One, to understand, the big picture and how to win championships. I think right now he was so on the high horse, leading the championship, leading the constructors. He's the one carrying the team right now. I think he was just on a high horse, and he got too comfortable being like, oh, look, this guy's going to back down to me constantly, so I just keep going and keep going. And I think it just fell on him this weekend. He went into the weekend thinking, I'm untouchable.
Does Max learn from this?
I think this might have been an eye-opener for him to be like, you know what? Lewis isn't going to back down to me every time. Maybe he isn't. He's going to start putting it in there now. He was being a gentleman driver before. Maybe this isn't going to be the Lewis. Maybe this is the old Lewis coming back because that's how he has to do it. The Lewis we saw earlier this year was the mature, older, 7-time champion, maybe looking for his whatever happens in the future, happens in the future. I've done a wicked career in motorsports. But now he's looking at it as this young kid's coming in, trying to push me around. I'm being respectful more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, he hit his tipping point. And I think Max now has to realize that you can't just push around a 7-time world champion and expect him to just lay over and take it all the time. Like, he's going to fight back sooner or later. And I think this was the weekend that fought back and kind of bit Max in the butt.
Also, earlier in the season, it's earlier in the championship. 5-6 points is different from 34 points.
Exactly.
And we said it on our last podcast. Lewis, Mercedes
Needed this.
And not only did they need it, Bottas actually came through, so they've tightened the constructors gap as well. Red Bull, ultimately, we're all grateful Max is okay.
Yes.
But they had a weekend to forget.
Yes.
Because now everything has gotten super tight. And that kind of environment going forward, will it be a lot of animosity? Will there be a grudge? Who knows? But I'll tell you this. I think the momentum and the ball is now in Lewis and Mercedes' court.
It is.
Just because he's been there before so many times.
And I feel like he's chasing, but he's almost got to the point where he's comfortable again, right? Where he doesn't have that, oh my God, we got to go. Now he's back within a race again. Anything can happen one race weekend, and he can be winning the championship again. He can be leading it. Mercedes can take it over. It's not that we need 2 races to catch Red Bull. It's okay. We're back to 1 race now. We're back in the fight. This is dangerous.
Well, let me just take a moment here, because in Austria, what was it, 2019, I want to say, Leclerc leading the whole race, right? Max came from the back, so good on him.
Yeah.
Came all the way from the back, but he forced Leclerc so far wide and made the contact. Leclerc was like, what was that? You know what I mean?
That's my issue with the whole Max and the Red Bull thing. It's like when he does the most aggressive moves, and we all know no one can say that Max is not aggressive, because he has some of the moves that he does is kind of on borderline dangerous, and it's all good. It's, oh yeah, he's a young hothead. Oh yeah, he's fast. And then when it goes wrong for him, they blame everyone else. It's like, come on, man. He was swerving down the straightaway, trying to block Lewis in the sprint race he was doing it, and in this race he was doing it. On that straightaway, he did a late pull down. Lewis got underneath him. He tried to squeeze him even more towards the wall. When is it enough to say, okay, that was a racing incident? Why is it that anytime Hamilton gets makes contact with Max, it's not Max's fault. It's Hamilton. He's mean. He's a guy that just, doing stuff because he doesn't want the young guys to win. No, it isn't. It's hard racing. You race me hard, I'm going to race you hard. You race me clean, I'm going to race you clean. That's how any racer is going to have their outlook on a race. And when Max goes in and races people hard and, oh yeah, look at that move, they all back down to him. Yeah, because they all think he's crazy at times. They give him room because they know that they're all going to crash if they
live to fight another day.
Exactly. Yeah. So now that Hamilton was just finally like, screw this, I need a championship. I have to go after this guy with the championship. I'm going to race him hard.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Hamilton's in the wrong because he didn't back down to him. It's like, no, this is racing. This is hard racing. This is a world championship. This isn't a club race. This is the world championship. We are trying to win millions and millions and millions of dollars for these drivers. They're not going to back down now. Sorry, Max. You got a guy that you kind of pissed off in the last couple of races that he's coming back at you now.
Yeah.
I apologize, man. It's racing. Stop whining.
Moving on.
Yeah.
You see the hat.
Yeah.
You see the hat. Charles Leclerc.
Yes.
This guy.
Yeah.
And like, what do we say about this guy? He's flying so far under the radar, yet performing so well. I feel like he's doing a job with an average at best car.
Yes. And it's not like he just got there on strategy. He started there, led the entire race, and then Hamilton just had better tires in the end and caught him.
He even had gear data problems,
like exactly. The
software
car was going
problems
into
with
limbo
the car
and all that stuff. And that guy is just good. Like we've always said it. There was times when he was, the car was underperforming, and you can't do much with a bad car. It's just like Russell. Sooner or later, he gets used to the car and then he performs with it. Leclerc is doing the same thing. The car is probably not supposed to be exactly where him and Sainz are, but they're both good drivers. Leclerc is a phenomenal driver, and he's jumped and shown why he's been signed by Ferrari, and he's one of their main drivers.
Do you think Bottas has finally realized that there's no point in me fighting for me anymore, because if I fight for me, I might not have a seat?
Yeah, I think in certain situations, where a situation like that, where he knew he was a sitting duck as well, hey guys, look, I'm the team player. Look, I'll move over for you. But then what happens if they're both 1-2, 5 laps to go, they're on the same tire strategy? Totally different story, right? You never know if he's going to actually back down to that.
Our boy Lando Norris, strong weekend, slow pit stop away from a podium, maybe. It was a bit unfortunate, his home race as well, but the McLaren's now firmly in P3 in the constructors. Great weekend for Ricciardo. Like, what do you make of the whole McLaren weekend? Their home race.
Yeah, I think he's getting more comfortable in the car now with Ricciardo. Lando, for him to bounce back with everything that happened this week with him and put it in the podium and perform like that.
Crazy week he
had. And it wasn't like he was beaten. Like he was beat up to get his stuff.
Traumatic stuff,
Like it's for him, 1, physically to bounce back from that, 2, mentally to bounce back from that and perform like he normally does. Like, that just shows how mentally strong that kid is and how great of a driver he is. And I think Danny Rick's finally getting his stride in that car. It took him quite a bit of races to do it.
Half the season, pretty much, you know.
So I think Danny Rick was it's probably him getting back going again, getting used to the car. I think he's going to be up there now. He's not going to just fall back to the back of the pack again. I think he's, going to start performing a little bit more, put Lando, give him a run for his money a little bit more, and support McLaren with those constructor points.
Overwhelmed, underwhelmed, surprised. Lay it on me.
Okay, my overwhelmed is Danny Rick.
Okay.
I was so happy that he was back up there. I was let's go. I'm super pumped that he's finishing with Lando. I don't care about him beating him at this point. I just want him to be with him, like be right within a couple spots of him, not this P4 and P14. Like if P4, P5, P4, P6, awesome. I'm very happy with him. So the underwhelming, I have to say Raikkonen, because I don't know, he's just he always gets up there, and then it's like, okay, yeah, he's gonna have a good race. And then he spins out on his own, like, oh, come on.
Yeah, Raikkonen, that's interesting. That's surprising. I never thought I would have heard you say anything about Raikkonen.
I honestly, because Raikkonen was always one of those guys that's under the radar. He gets those points. He's always in the, top, he gets into Q2. He gets into Q3 sometimes. He gets in there. And then, like, this one, I was like, oh, yeah, Raikkonen's going to have a good one. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, you spun, and now you're last.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Surprised.
So my surprised is Leclerc.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that he was up there. I didn't expect him to hold on to that lead for that long. I didn't expect that at all. He surprised the heck out of me. I thought in the first couple laps he's going to get swallowed up by the field.
Yeah. And the restart, you mean, after the red flag?
After the red flag. And I'm very, very surprised and happy that he was up there. Like,
surprised runner-up. Perez,
yes.
Surprised in a very different way.
Yeah, in a very, very different way. He did go from the back to the front. But I also think he kind of put himself in those situations where put him to the back. You know what I mean? Like when he went off in the sprint race, it was like...
Well, yeah, explain that for a second. Is that just a dirty air thing?
Yeah, it was totally dirty air. I think he just turned in and, even Lance during practice, there was a helicopter was on the other side of a bridge really, really low.
Yeah.
And you saw him driving, and all of a sudden when he went under the helicopter, the car went, whoa.
Really? So
and he's
that level of air.
But that level of air. So that's when you see stuff like that, you can kind of notice that how air dependent these cars are. So when he did that, he was like, "What's wrong with the car?" Check the tires, and they're all like, "It's fine. Why?"
It was just the helicopter.
And it was just the helicopter in the end that was pushing out a bunch of air, and it disrupted the airflow over the car, and it got it all shaky on him on the straightaway. So same thing that happened with Perez. It was just bad air coming off the cars in front of you, and that's the same. Well. And then he kind of got happy on the throttle, and there we go. He's gone.
But that also leads to something we didn't even discuss. They unveiled the 2022 car last week.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Sexy, no?
I'm excited.
Sexy,
I'm
man.
excited.
That car, it looked good.
I honestly think that's going to be the game changer in F1. The new 2022 rule set is going to make the lower teams catch the higher end team.
You think Haas really has a shot? No.
I really do. 2 years of development in that car.
Yeah, okay, true enough.
Yeah, they put so much development. But I honestly think all the new rules are going to do is bring the field a little bit closer. And because there's a salary cap now on how much you can spend on development and stuff like that, those those smaller big teams, I guess you can call them, and like the F3 teams, the F4.
They have a chance. They have a chance to get up to the big races.
Carlin and Art and all those guys now can look at it and be like, okay, I have a guy that can bring me the $200 million to go run a championship for the year. They can go and develop their own car and bring that up now because they know exactly what they're going to spend for the season. This is how much we're going to spend. This is what we're allowed to spend. Salary caps, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I think that these new rule sets are going to promote having a little bit bigger car fields now. And I think in the next 5 years, you'll see maybe a 26 to 28 car field. Budapest
is up next.
Love it.
And then it's like, I think this is the last race before the summer break?
Before the summer break, yeah.
So what happens in Budapest?
I honestly think Mercedes is going in on a high, and Red Bull, I think they're just going to, through this whole week, they're probably just going to go and try to get Hamilton suspended instead of worrying about the next race. Like, they just keep bringing this up, like, oh, one race suspension, one race, that pass was unheard of. And I think they're just going to get caught up in the whole media trying to do something to Lewis that they're going to lose track of the championship and go into Budapest behind. Like, they just need to dust it off, let it go, and go into the next race and beat them there. I think right now, Hamilton is on a strong high because of coming off a win at home. I think that's going to be huge momentum going into Budapest. And I think Verstappen is kind of on the back foot. Same with Red Bull being like, okay, we lost everything when we went to Silverstone. We almost lost the full Constructors' Championship. If Bottas had finished second and Perez finished out of the points, they would have been tied coming out of there.
Yep.
And if, the Drivers' Championship now is only 8 points separating them, so that's first to third. So now,
not to mention
yeah,
the car.
Yes.
Because as much as it's the same, it's not the same. It's not the same.
That car is written off.
Right? So they'll get him a new car, right?
Yes.
And they'll get him a new chassis and all that. What I'm basically getting at is, like, sometimes there's like this relationship between man and machinery, especially in a machinery-dependent sport like this.
Yeah. And
once something happens, you've heard it. We heard Bottas earlier this season say something's wrong with the chassis. Ocon, even last week, was saying something's just not quite right with this, and then they found it, and now all of a sudden he's racing again. Yeah. Same thing with Bottas to an extent, right? So my thing is, for all reasons you've mentioned, yes, I 100% agree with that, but also that new machinery, I could be way off. He could just jump in there and just boom off to the races.
They could nail it. They could make the chassis
nail it, right? Yeah, you never know. But there's also something there, right? And then there's a little bit of that psychology.
Yeah.
Next time he's going in with Lewis, what does he do? High speed stuff. Is he going to be comfortable with that?
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack. And I think the timing is perfect because it's only one race before the break.
Yeah.
So after the next race, these guys will leave and they'll have a few weeks to kind of think things over, and then it's really going to be pedal to the metal. So
yeah, I think it's going to be the rest of the second half of the season is going to be full speed, just battle. Like, it's going to be gloves off. I think Budapest is going to set the tone for that, and I don't think Max is going to back down. But now we know Lewis isn't going to back down. And I think this is going to be one of those dogfights that you'll see, like when Hamilton and Rosberg went at it, and there was a lot of contact between them.
Down to the very end, to the wire.
Exactly.
We look forward to it. It's been another race weekend. Dames, Darryl, thank you so much. We'll be back chatting. And I think what we should do over the summer break is actually kind of break it down driver by driver. We'll do a special episode for that.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, we'll do Budapest, post-race Budapest, and we'll chat again after another race weekend. Peace.